True creepy stories to fall asleep to. Do you believe in ghosts? The question feels simple until it isn't. It's not really about specters or whispers in the dead of night. It's about the cracks in reality, places where the seams don't quite hold. Some people say ghosts are the remnants of a soul too stubborn or too broken to let go. And this story is one of those instances. My name is Kathy, and I lived through something no one believes. But I don't need you to believe me. I just need you to listen. We moved into 112 Ocean Avenue on a cold, sharp December morning. It took us several months of searching to finally find the house. It was everything we'd prayed for. A fresh start, a place to heal. After everything that happened in the city, the job losses, the panic attacks, the cramped apartment, we just needed space. And this house had it. The house was beautiful on the outside, white colonial with blood-red shutters, a small boathouse, and wide windows that almost looked like eyes. A wide backyard for the kids to run. It was the kind of house you'd see on a postcard. George joked about finally growing tomatoes. Missy named the squirrel in the backyard Captain Cheeks. For a moment, we really believed this house was going to save us. But from the moment I stepped inside, I felt it. A strange heaviness. The air was thick. Thick like something was pressing down on my chest, even though I hadn't taken a single step. I told myself I was just tired or maybe cold or just imagining it. But by the third night, I knew something was going wrong. George, my husband, started changing first. He became obsessed with the fireplace. He said the house felt cold even when it was warm. George has never been the one to lie about what he felt, and I was completely worried. He sat in front of the flames, staring into them like he was watching something move. He stopped showering, stopped shaving, and barely ate. Every night, like clockwork, he'd wake up at 3:15 a.m. Not 3:14, not 3:16, always 3:15. And that was the exact time the murders had happened when Ronald DeFeo shot his family in their sleep. I didn't want to believe the stories, but it was becoming harder to pretend nothing was wrong. Then suddenly the house, it started talking to me. Not in words, but in sounds and smells and shadows. And so I decided to take a tour around the house and got to the basement. It was different. And there was a room in the basement, behind a shelf, a crawl space, painted entirely in red. We never noticed it when we moved in, and I wondered why the real estate agent didn't mention it to us. But the dog found it, growling, whining, and clawing at the door. When we finally opened it, a gust of air hit me in the face, hot and sour, like blood left out too long in the sun. My skin prickled, and my arms broke out in goosebumps that wouldn't go away. I turned around, and for a moment, I swear the hallway looked longer. Stretched, warped, like the house was breathing. And so we called the priest. We called him because I was scared, really scared. He arrived around noon. He was older, wore glasses, had soft hands, and a calm voice. As he walked room to room, blessing each space, whispering Latin under his breath. He stepped into the sewing room upstairs and froze. His head turned slowly, his eyes wide. Then he shouted, not like a priest, but like a man being choked by something no one else could see. "Get out!" he screamed, not at us, at something in that room. Then he turned and ran. He didn't say goodbye, didn't explain. But later he called and said he had broken out in fevered boils on his hands and never came back. That same night I looked in the mirror, and I couldn't breathe. I looked older. My skin was pale, almost yellow. My eyes were bloodshot. My cheekbones are sharper. It was like I had aged 10 years in my sleep. I touched the glass and it vibrated, not like a tremor, like a heartbeat. Behind me, I saw a dark figure walk past the hallway, but when I turned, there was nothing there. I waved it off and figured it was the fever, then walked towards Missy's room and felt something watching me as I tucked in Missy, my 6-year-old daughter. Missy said she saw Jody, terrified. I asked who Jody was. Jody says she lives in the window, Missy whispered. She's a pig, but she can look like other things. I laughed, though terrified, but thought it was imaginary, until I walked past Missy's room one night and saw 2 red eyes staring at me through her window. High up, floating, I froze. The air dropped by 10 degrees and my hair stood on end. And then the eyes blinked. That's when I screamed. I grabbed Missy and ran across the room, but when we looked back, the eyes were gone. Only a faint hoof print on the windowsill remained, a hoof print on the 2nd floor. The final night was the worst. George and I had just put the kids to bed. The house was still. It was too still. At 3:15 a.m., I woke up gasping. My body felt weightless, not floating, but rising. I opened my eyes and saw the ceiling moving farther away. I was levitating, hovering, frozen in midair, like invisible hands were holding me by the wrists and ankles. I tried to scream, but nothing came out. Then I was thrown sideways, slammed against the headboard so hard it cracked. I screamed again. Down the hall, doors started slamming on their own. The walls trembled. Footsteps ran across the ceiling, heavy, frantic, impossible. And then, the voice, deep, male, cold. It growled, "Leave this house." George burst into the room. The moment he touched me, everything stopped. The house went silent, like it was watching. We left that night, didn't pack a single thing, didn't turn off the lights, didn't say goodbye. We just ran. People ask me now if it was real, if I made it up. But every time I close my eyes, I see those red windows, blinking. Every time I pass a mirror, I check if I still look like me. And every night, at exactly 3:15 a.m., I wake up. I live in a 50-year-old apartment building that has always been a hotspot for strange, unexplained activity. Over the years, the stories have piled up, some whispered between neighbors, others shared in fear, and many of us, including myself, are still left with more questions than answers. One of the earliest and most heartbreaking stories tied to this place happened when I was just a child, around 4 or 5 years old. It was Christmas. The neighbors upstairs were hosting a small lunch gathering, and the mood was light. But among the guests was a young man, silently unraveling inside, struggling with his parents' divorce and sinking into depression. Nobody knew how far gone he really was until he quietly excused himself from the gathering, said he was going to use the bathroom, and locked the door behind him. Nobody could stop what happened next. I still remember the sound of people yelling, trying to break the door open, and I remember what I saw when it finally gave way. He had ended his life right there. I was just a kid, but I saw him fall. And from that moment, it felt like something in the building changed. It was like the walls themselves soaked up his sorrow. My neighbor who hosted that lunch never fully recovered. She still blames herself, says she missed the signs, says she didn't know he was carrying so much pain. A few months later, I was sitting in our small studio apartment watching Digimon. My mom and grandma were in the kitchen cooking dinner, just a few feet away. Everything felt normal until I heard something strange. A woman's voice, soft and unfamiliar, called my name. I paused the show and muted the TV, thinking maybe it was my mom. But instead of hearing her call again, I heard a humming sound. Faint, eerie, close. At first, I thought it was just the show still playing, but no, the TV was completely muted, and the humming wasn't coming from the screen anyway. It was coming from the space beside me, from the air, from maybe half a meter away. but there was no one there. I froze. My heart was pounding. I ran straight to the kitchen, trembling, and told my mom. She checked everything, the TV, the speakers, swore nothing was wrong, but something had changed. That was the first time I felt it, whatever it is, and it wouldn't be the last. Years passed, I got older, but the weirdness didn't stop. It only got stranger. Around the time I turned 14 or 15, our security guards started reporting strange sightings from the parking lot. A white ghostly figure had started appearing. It would just stand there completely still, sometimes sitting on the pavement, other times lifting off the ground and floating, yes, floating, slowly toward the sky. The guard said it didn't seem threatening. If anything, it looked desperate, like it wanted to be seen, like it was trying to get someone's attention. The weirdest part? It was caught on camera. The CCTV actually recorded it. But when the system was upgraded a few weeks later, all that footage mysteriously vanished. Erased, gone. That same guard who worked nights also told us about something else, something even more disturbing. Late at night, sometimes after 2 a.m., he'd hear loud, blood-curdling screams echoing across the parking lot. Not the kind of prank screams kids might let out. These were raw, terrifying, human but not quite. Then there was the whistling. Thin, drawn-out notes that drifted across the air without wind. The sound would shift from corner to corner, like it was circling the building. Then suddenly it would rise, like it was climbing, disappearing into the sky. But no matter how many times he investigated, he never found anyone. Inside the building, things were no better. Many residents, including me, started hearing voices. Not conversations, just names. Our names, soft, almost gentle, as if whispered right behind you. I'd hear mine in the elevator, in the hallway, even while brushing my teeth. And always the same thing. Turn around and nothing's there. But the basement, that was something else entirely. The basement is where things start to feel truly wrong. Ice cold even in the summer. Heavy, like the air itself doesn't want you there. People have reported seeing a dark, shapeless figure moving down there. Something large, not quite human. And I have seen a little girl, maybe 4 or 7 years old, running through the hall. Pale skin, long black hair, white dress, always barefoot, always gone in an instant. I asked around. No child like that has ever died here. Nobody even knows who she could be. Could she have been here before the building was even constructed? I don't know. But she's not just a ghost. She's tied to something deeper. But the worst experience I ever had started a few years ago. It lasted for 2 months. Every single night without fail, between exactly 3:10 a.m. and 3:43 a.m., my dog would wake me up barking like crazy. He would run to the front door and bark like he was seeing something I couldn't. He'd shake, refuse to move, whimper. Nothing I did could calm him down. At first, I thought maybe someone outside was being noisy. Maybe a neighbor had come home drunk. So I called the security guard. He said nothing was happening. No noise. No one is coming in. But then my dad and I noticed something else. Right before the barking started, the motion sensor lights in the hallway would flicker on, as if someone was walking up the stairs. But they always stopped right in front of our door. Not a step further. We'd open it, check. Every time, no one, nothing, just air. But my dog wouldn't cross the threshold. He'd stand frozen, staring into that hallway like something was standing there, watching, and it happened. Every single night. For 6 weeks. I was exhausted, mentally breaking. I even tried letting my dog sleep in my room, but it didn't help. He'd bark at the door all night. I couldn't take it anymore. One night I just snapped. I screamed into the hallway, begged whatever it was to leave us alone. I cried, I prayed, and a few days later, it stopped. Just like that. To this day, I don't know what was visiting us. I don't know why it left. I don't even know what it was. My sister once told me she saw the devil in this building. Not a ghost, not a shadow, the actual devil. Said it was in the corner of her room, standing in the dark, watching her. I chalked it up to sleep paralysis, but in a place like this? Honestly, who knows? Because this building, it never forgets, and it never sleeps. These were more than stories. They were real stories that happened. Glimpses into the places we were never meant to look. But now, you've looked. You've listened. And sometimes that's all it takes. So if the air feels heavier tonight, or your reflection seems a second too slow, don't panic. They just know your name now. And if you made it this far, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the bell. Just in case, we need to warn you again.